How you doing, everybody? This is Tom Barnes, and you're listening to the Stories from the 78 podcast, and it's a podcast that goes along with the website Stories from the 78. And I go around the city, and I check things out, and I find stories that are either unique to me or a story that I just want to tell, or a fun opportunity. One of those opportunities was going out to Galena, Illinois. Have you ever been out to Galena, Illinois? If you've watched the movie Field of Dreams, which I happen to have the soundtrack, and by the way, this soundtrack is outstanding. If you like records, if you like a good score, this movie, I don't even know if it's in focus. I can't see, but this soundtrack is amazing. I found this for like $4 at like a random store, like, you know, those half price books. That's where I found this. So anyhow, Galena is the home of Chisholm, Minnesota. That's in the movie Field of Dreams. So it's a cool spot to go and check out. If you've never been out that way, it's on the way to the Field of Dreams, which you can still check out. It's still there. But Galena, Illinois is home to Eagle Ridge Resort and Spa. And I went out there to check this place out. It's got 2 gigantic golf courses. There are miles and miles of hiking. There's a equestrian farm, and they even have hot air balloon rides that happen on the regular there, along with fishing, the whole thing. You can spend an entire week out there and you wouldn't see everything, which I did not think, because as you drive out to Galena, Illinois, you drive and drive and drive, and it's flat, 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 right? So you get about 30 miles outside of Galena, it starts getting hilly, and honest to God, this is a true story. That's where the glaciers didn't like flatten everything. It kind of went around that little spot right there. But that's why like western Wisconsin's so hilly and beautiful, in Illinois is so flat in Iowa, because that's kind of where the glaciers went and flattened the whole thing. And Galena, Illinois was kind of left to this beautiful rolling hills type of landscape, and the Eagle Ridge Resort right on there. It's kind of got like a Dirty Dancing vibe, if you've ever seen that movie. And they have a little store when you kind of get into the resort, and it's like a space where you drive in, and there's like houses, and then there's the golf course that are surrounded by the houses, then there's townhouses, and it's all like in this community, and the resort is like at the center of the community. And within the resort, they have, you know, a little convenience store. They have a couple of restaurants. It's a cool little place. I'm not going to lie. The Eagle Ridge Resort and Spa out in Galena. You need to check it out, because take a day trip to downtown Galena, and that is Chisholm, Minnesota. That is in the Field of Dreams. A lot of great shopping down that way. Very cool just to like walk and peruse. It looks like a movie set, honestly. And even when I was watching Field of Dreams the other day, they were talking about this space that is in Illinois and how they look like a backlot of a movie, an old movie set from like old golden age Hollywood. So I thought it was pretty cool and worth checking out. The story's up at storiesfromthe78.com. A friend of mine, her name is Laura. She writes for Stories from the 78. She shoots some videos and does the whole thing. And she did the electric bar that was posted, or the electric funeral bar story that was posted a couple weeks ago. And she also did the Duck Inn in Bridgeport. She's a Southsider, true and true. And she just kind of roams around Canaryville, Bridgeport, back of the yards, McKinley Park. Her latest is the Cozy Duck Inn. And very cool little story that she wrote, and I highly encourage you to check it out. The Duck Inn is just it's a fun little neighborhood joint right there in Bridgeport, and they got, you know, duck fat for the hot dogs and the fries and the whole thing. Very good, kind of an homage to hot dogs, if you're familiar with hot dogs. Cool place to check out for sure. A new spot downtown if you have family coming in from out of town or you want to impress them. Do you remember the Van Gogh thing that happened a couple of years ago where the wall was the art and it moved and it kind of brought the art pieces to life? Well, Illuminarium out at Navy Pier is kind of that, from what I can gather. I went there and saw it, and it's pretty much the same thing. You almost feel like you're in a live photo, you know, like they have a landscape of the moon. You feel like you're on the moon, you know, checking things out. And, you know, and it just adds to like the value of going to Navy Pier and having a lot of things in one spot. They have Flyover Chicago, the Children's Museum, Harry Caray's, Margaritaville, the views, the boats, Shakespeare, the Chicago Shakespeare, the live music on the weekends, fireworks on Wednesday and Saturdays. It is really a great spot. Not what it was when we opened, when it was like McDonald's and IMAX theater, like the Navy Pier has definitely changed over the years, and I suggest checking that out. I think it's pretty cool. I love 4th of July. It's become like a thing over the last few years, and I don't know what it is. My daughter's born on the 1st of July, so 4th of July has always just kind of been a celebratory holiday for the last few years in our family. And I was driving back and forth for work last week, and things at CBS are kind of cool right now just because we're transitioning to a new studio and we don't have streaming, and it was the holiday, NASCAR's in town. There's a whole bunch of things. So it was just kind of a slower week on the TV side over at CBS. So, and it was holiday. So on my holiday coming back on July 3rd, we were up at the Forrester Hotel, which, by the way, I know I'm going off topic here. The Forrester Hotel, they don't want to say this because they don't want people to be whatever, but the Forrester Hotel in Lake Forest is a hotel that if you love, I'm just going to say this, if you love the Chicago Bears and you love training camp, I would suggest trying to stay at the Forrester Hotel. I'm just going to give you that because you might or might not see a few people that work for the Chicago Bears. I mean, it's just down the street to Hallis Hall. I think it's less than a mile. It's really close. And it's a cool place. They're doing a new thing where they have the executive chef coming into your suite and making your dinner right there in one of the suites. You book it out like 2 weeks in advance and you're golden. So, I mean, training camp's coming up. So there's your little tidbit for the day. Coming back from that though, I've been driving past this spot on Milwaukee Avenue in Jefferson Park for years. And I always drive by it. And one time I was riding my bike by it and I looked at it and I thought it was really cool. And for 4th of July, I was trying to think of something to do that was a little bit different and, not a, typical 4th of July post about yada, Independence Day. All those things matter and all those things are great. But I wanted to find something that related back to Chicago. And this particular war memorial is that. Jefferson Park, a huge war memorial park in general. They had a cannon in the park years and years ago, and they took it away during the war effort of, like, I believe for World War II, because they needed the metal to melt down and make and send to the war effort, right? But so they have like a spot where a cannon used to be in Jefferson Park, and right outside the park, right where Milwaukee Avenue kind of meets Higgins, right there. I think it's kind of in front of a McDonald's. There's a war memorial, and I just love the war memorial that sits there right at that corner. I shot a little video of it, and I have a nice little description of what it is. But it's a war memorial for all the major wars the United States has been in as the United States, so not the Revolutionary or Civil War, but more of the Vietnam, World War I, World War II, the Korean War. Should be updated a little bit for, Iraqi freedom and the Kuwait War and all that stuff. Nonetheless, though, I mean, that memorial was pretty important for world history in Chicago. I mean, Jefferson Park was a huge area of the city where a lot of soldiers went during World War II and World War I, for that matter, out to fight for freedom and democracy and the whole thing. So I wrote a little bit about it, and by no means it's not a political statement at all. I think it's just a matter of remembering how we got to be free, and all the people that complain and want to tear down people and do that without any repercussions. Well, that freedom was fought for by these men and women over the years. And I just think it's a good moment just to remember why we should fly our flag on the 4th of July and every other day for that matter, but on the 4th of July, take pause and just be thankful for this country and how we got to be where we are. Not a perfect country by any means, but we're certainly not the only country that got to where we are by how we got there. You know what I mean? And we do the best we can with what we have, and we're continuing to do that now in each city that branches out to the country. So I don't know. I just wanted to remind folks of that, like freedom isn't free. I know people say that all the time, but it really isn't. And I think on days like 4th of July, it should be more than just about hot dogs and apple pie and a barbecue grill. So yeah, I wanted to pay homage to the folks, especially in my family, that have fought for our freedom and those who have died to honor and continue our freedom's legacy. So That is what's up at Stories from the 78. And the final thing I'll leave you with is I had a fascinating conversation with an author that is from Chicago, originally from St. Louis, but he's out in Elmhurst now, and his name is Jeff Hoffman. Great guy. We had a great conversation. If you look up Stories from the 78, Jeff Hoffman on Chicago hockey and his gripping new thriller, Like It Never Happened. Basically about a bunch of friends that had something happen to them. They all kind of went their separate ways for years. The guilt ate away at them, and now something happened where they kind of need to face reality. Almost sounds like a Stephen King Stand By Me kind of a movie, book, story, whatever. But I mean, the guy's gotten critical acclaim, and he was like a software guy for years and years and years, and he wasn't fulfilled. He wanted to do more. So he went for a fine arts master's to learn how to write, and he did that at Columbia right here in Chicago, force himself how to write and express himself that way, and storytell in a completely different part of his brain, the coding computer part versus storytelling and writing and using your other part of your brain to do these things. It was a fascinating conversation with Jeff, and I highly recommend checking out the story because we had a fun one just talking back and forth about what that was like, his love for hockey, that he still plays hockey now, even though he's a little bit older. But hey, us guys who are in our 40s or beyond, you're only as young as you feel, right? So anyhow, that story's up there with a bunch of others. I highly suggest you checking them out. It was a holiday week. We had a fantastic time with some friends over at the house. And we did pay homage to the 4th of July with probably the city's loudest and biggest illegal fireworks show right here on my street. And it was fantastic. But the national anthem was played, drinks were poured, laughs were had, and of course there were brats served. So I hope you had a great 4th of July. Next week coming up, we'll talk about an awesome collab between Mark Nolan and Three Dots and a Dash, which is a cocktail lounge right in downtown in River North. Mark Nolan is a great brand started in Chicago by a Polish immigrant who now lives on the south side of Chicago, who wanted to do more with fashion. So I have that among many other things coming up next week. So stick around for that, and please subscribe. I would appreciate it. And go over to the website and check out all the stories. I got 1,000 or so on storiesfromthe78.com. So if you can check it out, that'd be great. Until then, I will see you later. Thanks for listening and watching. Take care.